So Brian, let's talk about Aaron Banks and his performance at the Senior Bowl. We'll start with practice, and we'll move into what he did in the game, and then we'll talk about whether he helped himself overall. So a lot of highlight clips of Aaron Banks over the last week, whether it be at practice or the game for that matter. So let's talk about Aaron Banks at practice. How did he do?
He was up and down. There were some really impressive reps from Aaron Banks, and there was a lot more losses. There wasn't a lot of losses. There was a lot more losses than you'd expect of a guy of his size and athleticism. I think the first thing was checking in at 6'5" and over 330 pounds. That is one of those ones where you're going to be like, okay, what's the first thing you're looking at as a coach if you got a guy over 330 pounds? Okay, what does his body look like? You look at him and he doesn't look like a guy that weighs 330 pounds. He's a lot like Quentin Nelson in that regards. Where when you see Quentin Nelson and people say he's like 340 pounds, you're like, there's no way he's that big because he's not fat. Like
he's
there's
compact,
no big.
And it's like
he's just got broad shoulders and huge hands and long arms and thick thighs, and he's just big. And Aaron Banks is a lot like that. Giant head, broad shoulders, big arms. He's just a big guy. He doesn't have that baby fat that he had so much of early in his Notre Dame career. He's just a big kid.
Sure.
Okay, how's he move? Okay, he gets to practice. He moves really well. That was not a question. His athleticism was impressive. His quickness. I think it was the second play of the game. He pulls around on a wrap block on a counter and he gets over there in a hurry and then sees the guy coming inside, and he has the athleticism to stop and turn inside and make the block, and the guy goes right outside of him. We saw that several times during the week of practice. There was another long run in the game that kind of cut right behind him and Hainsey.
Yep.
But his athleticism was impressive. He was much better during team periods than he was during one-on-ones. And I think that's important, because it was working with your partners, getting to the second level, doing those things where you can show your athleticism.
But again, that's what I want as a coach. I want to see how you work with the guys next to you as opposed to just in space. I mean, I don't know. Those one-on-one drills are nonsense to me from an offensive lineman standpoint.
I think they're important because, and here's where he struggled is you could really put I want to put a lineman on the island, and I want to see how he handles it. I think sometimes the pass rushing things can get ridiculous, especially on the edge, because like you go so wide to win that you're not getting to the quarterback.
Never going to happen.
They don't do the Senior Bowl one-on-ones are not like Under Armour All-American one-on-ones. If a defensive end goes wide and wins, his defensive line coach is getting on him like, dude, this isn't an all-star game rep. This isn't a high school football camp rep. That's not getting it done. And so you see real battles, real reps. And that's the thing I like about it. And so when Aaron would have problems winning these reps, it was always something where he stopped his feet. So like there was a couple snaps where he'd come off, he beats the guy to the spot because you want to see angles. You want to see does he understand the proper drop angles? Is he getting too much depth, not enough depth? Is he too lateral, whatever the case may be? He'd take that really nice drop step, beat the guy to the spot, engage the guy, and then he'd stop his feet, and the guy would then beat him. Or the bigger problem for him during the week of practice was his hands were too wide. So a lot of times you're seeing him engage, and he's got his hands outside of the defender, and the defender's up in his chest, and he's not able to get his hands on, so the guy would knock him back and beat him, right?
Yep.
So that's just that hand placement. As an offensive line coach, I see that, and I'm like, that's correct. That'll be out by the end of the first camp.
Yeah, that's coachable.
100% coachable. And so that's the thing is everything that to me, when Aaron Banks was losing reps, it was always something that is fixable and fixable early. It was never he's not quick enough. Right. It was never he's not strong enough. It was never that. I think he showed off impressive physical talent. I think that he again, coachable. You're constantly seeing him and Hainsey interacting with the coaches, asking questions, being coached up. And I think that was important. And then when we got to the team periods, he was at his best. And that, like you said, that's where you want an offensive lineman to be at his best. But even there was still some inconsistency. But for me, in practice, he kind of looked like he always does. Physically impressive. He's going to compete in battle. But his execution isn't always there because he doesn't have the same level of advanced technique that, say, a Robert Hainsey has or a Liam Eichenberg has. Gotcha. But again, that's something that's what coaches look for, right? Like is the thing that keeps you from being a great player something that I can fix or not?
Yeah.
If it's foot quickness or agility, or you have super tight hips and you can't bend at the knees, I can't do anything about that. It is what it is. That's just whatever. But when you look at Aaron Banks, none of those things are issues. All the physical things, check.
Right.
And I thought his endurance during the week was good. You never saw him getting tired, playing tired. And that's important when the guy's over 330 pounds and he shows you the quickness and he's playing with the same sort of speed throughout the week. It tells me he can carry that 330. And that's important to me as a line coach, because that means that's a guy that can throw his weight around.
Sure.
And when he loses weight during the season, he's going to get down to 320, not 292.
Yeah,
like a guy that comes in at 305. So I thought the practice portion of the week was a good experience for Aaron Banks. He did not hurt himself at all. He showed some of the inconsistencies that you're going to see, but the physical talent is something to me that jumped out for a guy that's 6'5" and 330 plus pounds.
So let's move to the game. Did he continue with that trajectory in the actual game itself?
So it didn't start that way.
And he was a starter, by the way.
He was a starter. He started at left guard, and Robert Hainsey started at right guard. And it didn't start that way. He had a good first series, had a good wrap, but then there was a pass block late in the first drive where he just got bulldozed. And I'm thinking, here we go again, just that inconsistency. But after that, he settled in and played really well. I thought he was quick off the ball. His execution was sound. I thought his second level blocking was impressive. He had a really good, after that one play on that first series, I thought Aaron Banks had a really strong performance. And again, it built on what he did during the week, which is during team periods, he's going to be really good. I thought things that he would get in trouble at Notre Dame, we didn't see as much, which was when working on combo blocks, he had a bad habit of kind of turning his body inside towards that combo, which then kept him from getting to the second level. He did that once on the first day, and they corrected it. And after that, I didn't see it again. So, you've got to learn as an offensive lineman I got to help into my right or help the other guy while keeping my shoulder square, because I'm the one that's climbing to the second level. As soon as you turn your hips, you're not getting to the second level.
Right.
So we saw that from him. So I thought overall in the game, I thought he impressed me.
Okay,
and,
good.
And he was always, you look at the first two scoring drives, he was on the field. He was on the field on the Ian Book scoring drive. So him and Robert Hainsey were on the field whenever that team scored.
Wow,
and
shocker.
I think that's something that's gonna catch people's eye, because, like I said, you can't teach 6'5", 330.
Right.
You can't teach that. You can't teach 6'5", 330 with the kind of feet that Aaron Banks has. It's a rare thing. It's whether or not you have an offensive line coach who wants a ready-made player, or you want an offensive line coach that's willing to take a kid that needs some work, because that if he puts in the work, he's gonna be good. But he's gonna have. Him and Hainsey are the last group of players that still have the Harry Hiestand stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Meaning guys that he recruited and worked with. That's going to carry some weight in the NFL as well.
That's a good point. So bottom line, is Aaron Banks better off in the eyes of the draft nicks from before or after? Is he better off now than he was then?
I think from an NFL team standpoint, I think he's better off. I don't know about people that watched him that maybe thought he was going to come in and look like Quentin Nelson. I don't have a clue what NFL, the draft picks thing. I can tell you that I would be shocked if NFL people didn't come away more impressed with seeing Aaron Banks now than they were before.
Okay.
Just his body looked better. His overall performance was good. His teamwork was good. His work in team was good, I guess is a better way of saying that. Coachability, attitude, all those things, I think checked all the boxes, and I think it was a good week for Aaron Banks. I think at worst, he's going to solidify what you already thought of him.
Okay.
At best, he's going to go up the draft stock. I don't see any scenario in which the team says, yeah, he's not who I thought he was. Right. Unless you thought he was Quentin Nelson. You know what I mean? Like if you thought he was a top 15 NFL draft pick, you're going to be like, no, he needs a little bit more work, a little bit more polish for that. But I don't know if anybody really had him that high. If you thought he was a second-round pick before, I think you're going to think he's a second-round pick now. If you thought he was a fourth-round pick before, you're probably going to think he's a third or second-round pick now. That's how I look at it.
Okay. All right, so good. So Aaron Banks hopefully is heading in the right direction up people's draft boards moving forward.
And I think it was important for him to do this, Vince, because of no combine now.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
he's one of those guys. Him and Hainsey both needed that because there's not going to be that opportunity to go do the thing. I mean, pro day. I don't know how much a pro day does for an offensive lineman. He got the interviews now. He did all that stuff now, and he got out to put the pads on and show you what it's like with pads on. And so I think for him especially, I think this week was important for him. So I think it was good to see him put his best foot forward, in my opinion, and have a good week.
Now, I will say I was at the pro day for Nelson and McGlinchey, and that pro day did those two some good. That was one heck of a pro day.
But it was kind of like what Nelson did was kind of exactly what he did at the combine and on film is my point. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I know. One was impressive.
But again, you're talking about one of the greatest to ever do it.
Right.
Right. And that was the cool thing about it. I felt like covering Quentin Nelson, I felt like how an Ohio State beat writer would have felt or an Ohio State football analyst would have felt in the mid-90s covering Orlando Pace.
Yeah, right.
And that's how I felt covering Quentin Nelson.
No, absolutely.
You're not going to see this again for a while.
So enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, I got you. So Aaron Banks moving in the right direction. That's the important thing. And so we'll see what the next few weeks have in store for him.